For centuries, mankind had been creating rites in aid of life and love. Whether these rites were suggested by the Creator or the people's own wisdom had perfected them is unimportant. They, in fact, over the centuries, created a state of well-being and helped young people obtain love and joy in perpetuity. None of these rites was characterized by occult superstition, as today. Each one served as a school of higher learning and examination by the universe. Anastasia told you about the Vedruss wedding rite that dates back centuries. You mentioned it in just one of your books, but it deserves to be mentioned in every book. It is far from being fully comprehended by people living today, including you. Let the best learned men study the Vedruss wedding rite letter by letter. They won't, and you'd better believe me, Vladimir, they won't find a single occult or superstitious act. It is an act which is both rational and exactly suited to love's creation. Compared to it, you will see how absurd are today's wedding celebrations, traditions smacking of occultism and superstition. You don't have the slightest idea of what tremendous hidden wisdom lies in the ancient rites. They are the creation of cosmic worlds. All right, that is from Grandfather in book 8.2, everyone. That is chapter 1 of book 8.2. And here we are, me and my great friend Ariane Teleshusky, who you guys should know. Welcome to the Anastasia Foundation podcast, and we are continuing our book discussion series from the last episode where we were talking about love and God and those two energies, and we found it to be a really natural continuance into the wedding rite. So today we're going to be discussing the Vedruss wedding rite, going through and all of its different aspects, and I don't expect us at all to actually fully complete any kind of discussion on this subject today because it's a big one. We are in for a big one, and just as Grandfather said there, Vladimir had mentioned it in one of his books at that point in book 6, but he says it deserves to be mentioned in every book, and it's far from being fully comprehended. And today we're going to do our best to try to accelerate and expand our comprehension of this glorious rite, which is the creation of cosmic worlds, as Grandfather said there. And we want to invite you all along for the ride. So join us today as we explore this, beautiful Vedruss wedding rite. And again, as I said on the first interview or podcast here, that we are not intending to provide some definitive perspective on these things. Ariane and I are just, talking and trying to expand our own comprehension of these things as we go along. And the idea is that we can all think about these things and contemplate these things together. It's like a collective thought, expansion exercise. So in that spirit, we hope to share things with you. And again, we invite you to share any insights, any ideas that you have in the comments, right? So join us on this. And Ariane, so glad to have you back here to get into the wedding rite today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to explore this with you, Gabriel, and with everybody. We're really excited to also hear about what you all think in the chat. Definitely add what your observations are, because Gabriel, you mentioned exploring this theme last week when we had completed the first episode of our exploration here of the book. Which was, mother love and father creator. And you knew instantly, we need to talk about the rights of love. We need to talk about this. And you brought up Grandfather. Now, you just read that quote from Grandfather. That was loaded, what you just read there. Grandfather literally said, Vladimir, you wrote 10 books. You need to mention this in every book needs to have this. And by the way, Vladimir, the majority of people have no idea really what's going on here, including yourself. That's a huge statement. That's very enticing to me, to you, Gabriel, or listening to Grandpa. Well, Grandpa, you really are pointing to something here. You're putting a huge light on something for us to sit with and be with. And that's what we've done, Gabriel. We've taken this to sit, and we were just chatting before the recording, specifically for me, book 8.2, reading one of the chapters. We won't get into this now, but every sentence is packed with a radically, I would say, almost opposite way of living and being and perspective than we in this society have been being. So it's a journey, like Gabriel said. It's like, if you haven't gone to this book, definitely we invite you to go there and to keep your mind open and your heart open, because it's radically opposite from our traditions.
Yeah, yeah, very well said. I mean, there's a tremendous amount for us to get into and to explore. And, you know, grandfather was saying today's modern wedding rites are traditions smacking of occultism and superstition, right? And he said, let the best learned wise men study the Vedruss wedding rite letter by letter, and they won't find a single occult or superstitious act. And as you go through it, everything is perfectly rational, perfectly useful. There's always a very beneficial outcome to every action. Everything makes sense. And it makes so much sense that it's mind bending. It just explodes your mind. It's all so rational and perfectly clear that it just, yeah, flips it shows you how things are supposed to be and how far we've gone, how far away from that we've gone. And here we are, we're invited to restore these things and get back on that path, right? And we are, I guess, pretty fortunate that we even know about this, right? Yeah. So, you know, just the fact to even be aware that this is a possibility is probably a very big deal. And right, you know, knowledge is, well, the awareness of a choice, right? We are aware that we can make a different choice that many people have not made for a very, very long time. Right, like that Vedruss wedding rite had not been done probably in a very long time until Anastasia brought it back, right? And so we are aware of a possibility that is unbelievable, and just knowing that it's an option and directly comparing it, contrasting it to today's tomfoolery.
Good choice of words.
We're pretty lucky.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So I wanted to start by just going into, you know, we're going to do our best to explore this topic, but what even, you know, is the wedding rite? Like, you know, and it's interesting they use the word rites for all of these things. And, you know, when Anastasia is explaining it, so I'm going to be talking a lot from book 6, chapter 5, which is the wedding rite chapter. But Anastasia actually says it was a wedding rite, or rather, the recognition of the union of two people in love. The wedding rite, a bonding of two hearts, right? The recognition of the union of two people in love, right? Instead of this procedure is performed and now the people are in love or something, it's recognizing the union of two people that are in love already, and this kind of bonding of their hearts, right? It's an interesting idea. Why does she say, or rather? Right, the wedding rite, or rather, the recognition of the union of two people in love. It's kind of just every little piece of this is a different kind of perspective, right?
Yeah, totally. There's actually something in this book. There is a sentence in this book that would beautifully tally onto what you just said, and I'm reading from 8.2. Mm-hmm. Just give me one moment here because I will find it. It's essentially where the family of Lyubomila. Lyubomila, we walk through her marriage rite with Radomir in this book, and it's like a storytelling book. It's like a story of their reunion and their process, and essentially, yeah, I actually have it right here. I'm just gonna read this quickly, and then let's just tally on to what you just said there, Gabriel, and we can keep on going with the book 6. Their rite is, we are walked through their rite and how quite holy, quite profound, very rational it is, and how it puts all the power back into the hands of the couple. And by power, we mean the power of love. All the power back, all the holiness back into the couple, where there is nothing in between them. There's no priest that's telling them or giving them anything. There's no registration that they go to register themselves or sign a document. There's literally nothing in between them and their love and their union and the earth. They include the earth to the same degree and proportion that they include one another as a loving couple. It's not the couple that's getting married here. It's a trinity. It truly is like the man, the woman, and the earth, the land, the motherland. And they make that really clear in the book, and we're going to read many, I'm sure, many passages about this.
I actually have that quote noted down here too. I had that whole
Yes.
section. Yeah. Yep.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? Why don't you share that, and then I'll share
Yeah.
mine after.
Cool. So I actually had that a little further down here. I have a giant sheet of notes, guys, about this topic. It's ridiculous. And so Anastasia's saying, this is chapter 11, book 8.2. She says, of course, the materialization of living space, the house, the homestead, the beauty of the actions used to create these all play an undoubtedly important part. But there's one incredible aspect that is just as important. See who actually marries the young couple. Not the parents, not some random official in the civil registration office, or a priest whom they often see for the first and the last time. Lyubomila herself places the crown on Radomir's head in front of the whole gathering. This is an act that God's children are indeed entitled to fulfill. It is a psychological factor that is not as simple as may seem at first glance. A man who lets his love be registered by some random person is already relieving himself, on a subconscious level, of the responsibility for the subsequent fate of his family. Lyubomila, by contrast, takes this responsibility upon herself. There are many formalities placed between modern couples registering their marriage and God. Oh my God. These include the blessing by the parents, the registration at the civil office, and a priest in the church. By contrast, nobody stands between the Vedruss couple and God. Consequently, their marriage can be blessed only by God himself. And even before the crowning, he really makes this into an actual manifestation. He sends them mutual love. The Vedruss people knew how to accept it and make it eternal.
So can we just take a do we say anything to that?
Yeah, I mean,
Do we say anything to that? Like, okay, let's have a look at the contrast to our rights and our traditions. Wouldn't you agree it's radical? Like, how many things do we in our culture, in our modern time, have in between us and God? In between us and the land. And the land. This is such a stark contrast. And that's why when a lot of people read this chapter, it's not just about this inner remembering, something in us that, whoa, I'm starting to remember something that's really old, but it can also be triggering.
certainly.
You know?
Yeah.
What is our love? What do we even have a love in perpetuity in these systems and in this modern way of living? Because what I'm hearing, Gabriel, when you read that, is love is sanctified when when there's perfect, when there's no obstruction between the man, the woman, and creator, and the land. Who's
Right.
doing that? I don't know anybody who has. How do you? You know, who's taken that road? Yeah.
Right. And you're making me think, like, you know, throughout the series, love is referred to as this inspiring force behind creation. You know, and even in book 4, Anastasia says love cannot give inspiration to annihilation, right?
Yeah.
Love aspires to the divine creation. So love, first, it requires a space to fill, because that's how it works. It requires a space to live in. It can't live in a dead, uninspired space, but it can on a space of love or a kin's domain. It can fill that space, right? And so the love can't fully exist or manifest without the space, right? This is a complete prerequisite. Like, and actually, even I forget in which book exactly, but I remember, I think it might be 8.2 or book 10. Anastasia was talking about, I think, something about modern couples, but she was saying that, you know, what people feel in the beginning when they meet each other, like that spark, isn't fully developed love, right? And she said somewhere that even if the people's love isn't fully developed, just a strong mutual attraction is sufficient. And once the creation of the domain starts to undergo itself, that whole process, then the love can actually bloom into what it's intended to be. We don't have these spaces. We don't go through this process. We don't have spaces of love for love to inhabit. We don't do things in line with the divine intention, and then we wonder why love isn't present.
Oh,
We haven't fulfilled the conditions for its manifestation, its full manifestation. It seems that the love, we have a seed of love that's given to us, this germ of love, and we have to stoke the fire and then do everything right and then give it a place to occupy and grow.
yeah. This is having me come to page 136 in book 8.2. Tally on to what you just said there, Gabriel. The lovers did not. So when the couples meet, they go through a process where they literally take the whole year, the whole year to, first of all, they choose a land together that resonates with them so that they can build the space of love that Gabriel is speaking about. And then they take the whole year to be with the land in all her different seasons. So to observe the wind, the activity of the wind, the activity of the sun, to observe every ecological system you can imagine on this land, to be so close with it, intimate with it, so that when they do build their kin's domain, it's as harmonious as possible. It is as beautiful as possible. And I mean, just that alone, we could just have an episode just on that.
We could do an episode about every single one of these ideas. I mean, it's like, you know, and actually I remember she said anywhere from a few months to a year or even 2 they could spend observing the space and creating the design in their mind, right? Of what it's supposed to look like. And you know, I actually want to go back to a quote from, I think this is book 8.2 as well. Anastasia was saying, this act of sanctifying the union of 2 people in love during the Vedic age can by no means be considered a manifestation of the occult. It was an entirely rational act corresponding to their way of life. The ever-increasing feeling of love for one another in every family coupling bore witness to the level of this culture. In our modern day, this feeling of mutual love in married couples always tends to dissipate after a while. The energy of love is no longer within them, and this is something accepted as a given by human society. But this scenario is unnatural to man. It tells us that the lifestyle people lead today is unnatural. Right? We're out of tune with the divine way of being, right? Because even grandfather said in the quote I was reading in the opening, you know, whether these rites were suggested by the creator or the people's own wisdom had perfected them is unimportant. You know, to some degree, these procedures, these rites, especially the wedding rite, are essential to us functioning in the way that God intended, right? And if we stray from them, we live this unnatural life and we reap the consequences.
Yeah, and so there's many questions I know that come up for me. Okay, well, we are very far from having this profound love and perpetuity in a couple with God, with land. It's beyond a trinity. It's like this 4-way, you know, creator. It's even 5: creator, father, creator, mother, love, land, woman. It's this beautiful,
the spirit of the children coming later, right?
Children, right? So many things. And with all of those forces invited into that ceremony, it sounds like and looks like a love is indestructible. It survives and thrives, and it's so strong that nothing can permeate that. Nothing can collapse that. And when we get further into Lyubomila and Radomir's story, we can see they were madly in love with each other till their last breath. And they had a pretty intense, wicked death, but they didn't even, you wouldn't have even known it because of their love and because of their devotion and utter and total holy union with each other. You know, they exuded that from the very last moment, even in such a horrible situation. Love won. Love still won.
Crazy. Right. Yeah. I mean, and what you were saying, that idea of the love being indestructible, Anastasia speaks exactly to that in book 8.2. I'm just trying to find exactly. Oh yeah, here's what she said. Oh man, take note of what the couple originally aspired to. Together, in an impulse of inspiration, they mentally worked out their design. Step 1, the design of a space for their love. A space for their love is what she says. The design
Yeah.
of a space for their love. It was in this space they had created that their child was conceived. Three significant feelings of love merged into one for an eternity. After all, a man, for reasons he cannot explain even to himself, retains a strong reverence all his life for his family domain, his motherland, for his child, and for the woman with whom all this was co-created. It is only three feelings of love, not a single feeling all by itself, that can live for eternity. Isn't that a mind-exploding thought? Right? Like, because us in our normal consciousness, we just think of like love as something, it's this kind of thing, it exists, I have it, I love this person, and then we have no understanding of how it actually works at all. Right? And we just accept all these unnatural consequences of our life. But she's saying here, only three feelings of love, not a single feeling all by itself that can live for eternity. So the motherland, the domain, being inextricably necessary for this everlasting feeling of love, right? The child that is, created, and she says, the woman, she's speaking from a man's perspective, but that person, the child, the motherland, those three things together is what, makes love eternal. Wow.
Yeah. Something I just want to sit with for hours and really let that sit in. Absolutely incredible, really inspiring, also confronting. It would make sense that our society is struggling so much with what's the divorce rate now, right? What's the infidelity rate? Like there's so
super
much
high
agony going on with relationships and a devoted, committed love that we're seeing everywhere. Something that I think adds to pure, holy love is how these young people interact with each other before, like when they meet and before their marriage. It's very different from ours. We glorify and love the whole dating scene, and you gotta, well, how about this? I'm just gonna read the quote and you'll see the contrast for yourself, okay?
Please.
You see the contrast for yourself. It's in book 8.2 and it's page 136. So she's speaking about Radomir and Lyubomila, and they've met.
And you can say it's Lyubomila.
Lyubomila. Oh, thank you for correcting me. Lyubomila,
yep.
Thank you. Lyubomila. They've met. They have chosen each other to create this kin's domain and to have love and perpetuity together. And now Anastasia's talking about how this young couple treated one another and their practices that are traditional. This is like a Vedruss way, okay? So it's at the bottom of 136. The lovers did not kiss or even embrace. According to Vedruss custom, anything like that was not seemly to do before the wedding. And there was a considerable significance to be perceived in this. They did not make daily routine out of kisses and embraces before their children were conceived. And therefore, when the moment of conception arrived, their energies were at their peak potential, and they never set up dates for themselves.
Right.
When I first heard that, I was totally triggered. You don't set up dates? Well, how do you know? How do you know if you're can even really bond with this person or even trust this person? How do you don't you want to know their history? Don't you want to take a lot of time with them? Don't you want to? This is what she is proposing, Anastasia, is a whole other paradigm of intuition, trust, and connection with, she's talking about something so much more profound. And what she's saying is, I'm going to reread this one sentence again. When the moment for conception arrived, their energies were at their peak potential. All that energy was devoted to this child, the land, and both of them, that man and woman, being in this elevated, inspired love state. So that is so different from how we do things, right? In the modern era. I mean, I don't know anybody who's done that even remotely close, and I can only imagine that, this is demonstrating a really high degree of trust in myself, trust in my partner,
Yeah.
trust in God, trust with the land. It's like a whole other degree of surrender and devotion and trust. So yeah,
As you said that, Ariane, like you said to go to page 136 in book 8.2, but I accidentally picked up book 6 and went to page 136 here. And crazily enough, there's a quote right here that speaks exactly to what you're saying. And I think Anastasia, how is it? This is insane. There's only one thing that cannot be explained with complete accuracy. How was it that he and she always fell in love with each other upon meeting for the first time? And their love was extraordinarily passionate. It's all quite simple, a philosopher of the present day might say. Their feelings for each other were already being set afire by their own dream even before they met.
yeah.
But back then, a wizened wise man would have responded to such a question with a wink. Our river has always had a mischievous streak in her, you know? The whole point is, Vladimir, they did not analyze life, they created it.
Wow. What?
Right? And it's like, think about that idea. And this actually leads me into, and the last thing where you were talking about as well, saving their energies. There's another part.
Yeah.
Anastasia is saying these aspirations of creation, right? She's saying all these aspirations were now concentrated in the two loving hearts. Their knowledge was enhanced by the energy of love, fostering new inspiration. This is why they did not even think about what we call today the pleasures of the flesh. They were so engaged in the process of creation. They were so inspired. They were so energized. And we have to understand, it's hard for us to fathom what an average day would have been like for a Vedruss person. They had no daily concerns like we have. Food, shelter, money, bosses, all these things that we have to do. Their life was not difficult in the slightest. All the domains were set up to grow effortlessly and provide food and all these things without question. And Anastasia literally says in book 6, without any human like labor. So they were unbelievably abundant, prosperous. They had incredible, their whole life you could say was engaged in creation. They had nothing distracting them, and they were extraordinarily pure. They understood life, and when they met each other, and actually this leads exactly into where I wanted to go, like going step by step through the marriage rite. The declaration of love that they say to each other, right, is and it's funny because the beginning of the Wedding Rite chapter is Anastasia talking exactly this. The Vedruss declaration of love, the man says to the woman, "With you, my beautiful goddess, I could create a space of love to last forever." Right? And if she feels the same way, she'll respond, "My God, I'm ready to help you in your grand co-creation." Right? And this is how it starts. This is the proposal, or this is the declaration of love. This is this is the foundation of the entire point of them being together, is to co-create a space of love that lasts forever. And as we were talking about in the last podcast, this is the same thing that God did with love, right? God was dreaming and he was creating and all of this. And then love came in and, touched him with its warmth and gave inspiration and the power to actually bring his dreams and everything forth into materialization. And so it's kind of, even on the human scale, it's this, the God as, the woman refers to the young man as a god, and he refers to her as a goddess, right? And it's really profound, but in my opinion, it's an exact meaning of that same interaction between God and love, right? It's God says to love, "With you, my inspiration, I could create a space of love to last forever." Right? And the female responds, "My God, I'm ready to help you in your grand co-creation." And that's the foundation of everything.
Yeah. So you're reminding us, Gabriel, of that in the last podcast episode we did together, where we talked about Father as the creator and Mother as love. You're reminding us that their union is what Anastasia is inviting us to recreate here on Earth with the kin's domains, to literally mimic it, to copy Father Creator, Mother Love's union, to recreate it here with the kin's domain. And now you're saying, Gabriel, that it goes even further with the marriage rite, where it's like full-on acknowledgement, the woman observing her beloved as God. And you should hear these words. We should probably get that, those quotes. Full on acknowledging him as a God, and him acknowledging her as the source of love and all its inspiration and warmth and infinitude. So
Right.
that'll, that's another. But if you read the chapter and really digest what Anastasia's saying, she's saying that these children of God are recreating that marriage, right, between Father, Creator, Mother, Love, and they themselves have the same aptitude and capacity. In fact, they can even move beyond what Creator and Mother Love have intended themselves and designed themselves. So she's talking about these Vedruss people as actual God people. That's it's a huge statement.
Right. And she says further in, that chapter in book 6 and 8.2 is that it's because they're performing deeds that make them in the likeness of God, right? Of gods, right? And I mean, we keep going back to the parallel of, so, the second step in the wedding rite. It's funny, the wedding rite begins with the declaration of love, saying that we are going to co-create a space of love to last forever, right? And the second step is they immediately begin designing. There isn't like any delay between, there isn't any of the stuff that we do, nowadays. I mean, they literally get straight engaged in creation immediately from day one. It's kind of an incredible thing to think. It's like, and as we're talking about this, we're not, casting any judgment on how people live today or trying to be severe. It's simply an observation, right? It's an observation and a contrast as to how they behave versus how we live. And it's like they immediately get engaged in creation. So, right. So Anastasia says, next, the young lovers would jointly select a location for their future home. It called them and drew them to itself, much as an infant inexplicably draws to itself a pair of loving parents, right? And so as they're spending time at this location, and she says that first they'll visit, the surrounding land of the groom, and then they'll visit, the surrounding land of the village of, the bride, and they will find something around there, generally, maybe go in a different place. But now they're engaged in this, design process, and it's extremely deep, right? And Anastasia says that they spent time in deep meditation, right? Deep meditation. She says it might go on for months or even a year or two. And she says a living design was being created in thought, one that would last forever. Even today, people can imagine how involved and concentrated thought can become when one is endeavoring to come up with a design for one's own home, right? So to help us relate to this, it's like, imagine if you were designing your dream home normally, right? How engaging that would be. Well, imagine now you're working out the interrelationships of all these different planets. And Anastasia, she's saying that she's talking about the positions of the planets or something that they had to factor in. They had to factor in all the different wind patterns at different times of the year, the interrelationships of all these different plants that were being planted next to each other, interactions with the animals, every sound that the wind would make when it passed through the leaves. I mean, they were working on something extremely complicated, right? Yeah. And they perfectly understood it. And so this is the step one. And it goes back to, how God was dreaming of the world, right? The universe itself. And they say, we're going to create this thing together. And now step one is we're designing it, right? In thought first. And they spend lots of time in deep meditation on that. And this is what, this deep engaging, you can't imagine how inspiring would that be? Like if we were there, we don't have to worry about anything in our daily life, like no bills, no going to the grocery store, none of that. Fully engaged in creation.
Wow.
I mean, wouldn't you be like super tremendously inspired to just do that all day until it was done? Right? It just makes sense. They didn't have anything else to worry about. They could completely do that. And so she says this distracted, this is why they didn't engage in the pleasures of the flesh. They had no thought. Their thought can never even go there, right? They're just like completely inspired and engaged in creation.
Oh my God. It's almost unfathomable from
Right?
my viewpoint, but it's true, and that's how our ancestors lived. And look at their potential and what they were able to tap into. They were able to create this like living, breathing biome of a kin's domain that not only fed them and healed their body, but it also protected them, in perpetuity. This is like a multi-generational lineage, heirloom you're passing down to your family, and it only getting more and more of your genetic coding and the needs of your body and all of your systems, because you're putting those seeds in your mouth, you're planting them in the ground. This is a living, breathing, consciousness that this couple has consecrated through this marriage rite. And the way you're talking about the degree of precision and patience and attention that they put into this land, Gabriel, if you want to know more about it, everybody, it's in book 8.2, and they share Radomir. Can you say her name one more time?
Lyubomila.
Lyubomila. Okay, Lyubomila. They talk about the degree to which the degree of precision that they put into absolutely everything, like what Gabriel was talking about.
Yeah.
And it leads into something next. So Gabriel was mentioning maybe, 20 minutes ago, that this process of observing land and really taking the time to build relations with the land, it can last anywhere from a few months to a year to even 2 years before that couple is ready to take the next step. And the next step is even more holy and beautiful than the prior one. It keeps on building on this theme of inspired co-creation that is all in. It's like totally devoted, totally all in. There's no distractions. All their thought goes into this and nothing else. And they even build this little home. He builds, and her too, they build this little house, temporary house on that land. So in the warmer seasons, they can actually be on it, but there's no intimate engagements in that home while they're sleeping next to each other. Nope, not at all. Their purpose is to be with the land, with each other, yes, but to be with her and to build that intimacy, because they know they can't do it without her. They know that now we know that love and perpetuity can't really exist and thrive and protect us and guide us without the land. It's we need the motherland.
Wow. Wow, man. It's so interesting to look at this from our modern perspective, right? And to try to get an approximate understanding of what it must have been like for them, what it must have been like. I mean, the joy involved in all of that, and, the degree of skill and understanding necessary, and just how inspired they were to do these things, right? As you're saying, they were completely engaged in this process of creation. Nothing to distract them at all. This is all they wanted, right? And it makes me think of like they understood the purpose of the union between man and woman. They fully understood it. They didn't miss a single step of it. And it's just such a contrast, like from the declaration of love, right? And then immediately going to designing the domain, spending 6 months, a year or two on this, mentally constructing it in extreme precision, right? And like the fact that they're also thinking intentionally of the children that they're going to co-create on that land. That's like the ultimate crowning achievement, right? Is like we create the space is materialized, this love is inhabiting the space. Now love is present here, everything is set up, the kind of crown jewel creation happens, right? And again, like I keep going back to what happened in book 4, but it's exactly the same thing between God and love. The whole earth was materialized in its beautiful perfection before God created Adam, right? And then, eventually again Eve. And same idea. Everything was perfect and wonderful and unfathomable. And that's what the Vedruss, people were doing as well. And it's just, such a crazy thing to be walking step by step through this as a modern
Yeah.
person.
It is, it is. I had a thought when you were speaking. You know how these Vedruss people didn't date, they weren't intimate before their marriage rite and the creation of their land. They didn't do any
Yeah.
of that. They saved all that intimacy for after that marriage rite and after the building and intimacy of the land.
Mm.
What I'm seeing from my modern perspective, limited perspective, is I think it's fascinating because they did not give their mind, not necessarily their mind, they did not give their fears and insecurities a chance to judge, to dissect, to allow doubt to come in. They didn't even give a chance to any of that.
Yeah,
And
that's crazy.
any of the readers will know that one of the biggest crimes of humanity is doubt. You know, it's even arguably the main issue that Adam and Eve, according to the books, Adam and Eve, the first man and woman in their pure, pristine Eden, doubt is quite arguably the first and most devastating, I'm going to say mistake, it's not a mistake, but like anti-rational choice that was made, right? And so these young people, these Vedruss people, did not even give a chance. They don't even give any opportunity for any of that
Crazy.
anti-rationality to enter their mind, to enter their heart. They're holding such an unreal boundary that's impermeable, and then
Yeah.
they fortify it with a planet.
You're right. It just gets insane.
Yeah, and then in their actual marriage, right, which we'll get into shortly, they're inviting the neighbors, they're inviting their family to witness and to be co-creators with them in this beautiful proclamation of love and perpetuity to one another. They're literally
Right.
foolproofing their love. Nothing. Boom, 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 boom. They're covering everything so that nothing can seep through the cracks. And did it work? Well, according to Anastasia, it worked for millennia. It worked for
Yeah.
who
She says
knows?
millions of families, right? She says, you know, and that was a quote I had saved for later, but after she goes through the whole wedding rite, which I don't know at what point we'll get to at the end of the whole wedding rite, but she's like, you know, millions of families existed upon the earth. Imagine millions of families going through this rite. We haven't even gotten to the rite yet. It's like we're like, and it's already mind blowing. But I mean, this is the scale at which their civilization was at, right? That culture was so great. Those people were so great. There was millions of them, millions and millions of families, and they covered the planet, and they were all perpetually happy forever. Like, and we are really tasked with understanding how they did that. We're really tasked with this. We really owe it to ourselves to study this deeper
Yeah.
and really understand, just as grandfather was saying, because we're in, you know, you could say dire straits, and we gotta fix this. We gotta fix this. Yeah, man. And, you know, I wanted to get into, you know, as you were saying, kind of the next step here. So Anastasia says, once the design was completed in their thoughts, right? And she says, this young man and woman, they spent 6 months, a year or two in deep meditation on this.
Yeah.
Once the design was complete in their thoughts, the lovers first paid their respects to the bridegroom's home village, where they went around to every house and invited the residents to come for a visit. Each household awaited their arrival with great excitement and anticipation. And then eventually, you know, they also went to the bride's village and all of this. And essentially what would happen is that, you know, the couples would sincerely praise something at each of the domains, right? So you have, what a marvelous, loyal dog you have. Wow, what a beautiful and fragrant fruit is being borne by this apple tree, right? And all of these things. And eventually, the whoever was living on that domain would bring those things as a gift later. So if they praised a colt or something, you know, a horse, they would bring a young horse later. I don't know the terminology. I think it's colt for like a small horse or something. Anyway, don't kill me, guys. But, you know, and all of this, they would give it as a gift later. Anastasia was also saying that, you know, they as each one stepped forth, the people... Oh, no, I went to the wrong thing. Hold up. I'm just going to pause this momentarily while I find... And so, what Anastasia says as they're going to the different villages, as each one steps forth, the people bow to him, inasmuch as he has shown himself worthy of the young couple's appreciation, as they did the rounds of the village domains, for being able to bring forth beauty, which means he has been found worthy of appreciation on the part of the Creator, the Father of all, the all-loving God. That is not a conclusion reached through superstition. It's quite logical. People of the Vedic culture were wont to treat the young couple designing the splendid oasis as deities. Such treatment was not unfounded. After all, the Creator had performed his creations in an impulse and inspiration of love, and these young lovers, likewise inspired by love, have now created a splendid design. So there's actually a deep significance for the people participating in the wedding as well, that, these deities incarnate are coming down in this inspired state of love in the middle of creating their space of love, and they're giving praise to the people's life. It's almost like, as she's saying, God himself is praising each person. He's like letting them know, you are on the right path. You are doing good. You have brought forth beauty. You please me. He's speaking through these people, right? And the Vedruss people of the time, they knew to accept, how to receive that praise was like not lightly given. It was really significant. It wasn't just like, I have to say something nice to everyone and I'm going to force myself to say it, but the Creator himself is speaking through me and praising this, right?
So I'm going to take your thought and just work with it a little bit more. So talking about the inclusion of the neighbors and the other settlement members, how they treat
family members, extended family.
Yeah, how they treat this young couple as deities. And then they are invited to the actual wedding rite, which happens on the kin's domain. We're going to get into those details shortly. And then it's another participation in what Father, Creator, and Mother Love did to create the galaxy, the universe. It's another version of that where these neighbors can now relive that and not just witness it. It's not witnessing. I'm going to be careful with my words here.
Wow.
They're participating in it just as much. They're co-creators too, and they get to relive this holy moment, the most holy of there's no more holy moment than when earth and man were created, right? They get to relive that, participate in it, also very intimately. We're going to get in some of these details. This marriage rite, the people who come to participate and witness, they're bringing plants. Like what Gabriel's saying, they're bringing the animals, right? And then they're even placed on the certain places on the land where that plant will be planted, where that chicken coop will be placed. Like they're using their bodies as the markers on the land. And it's this beautiful interplay of this young couple is proclaiming their love through God with the land, and everybody is reliving their own understanding and commitment and relationship with Creator and love and the land too. It sanctifies everything.
Wow.
I believe it fortifies even more of the love with the neighbors and the other settlement men and women and families. I think it's just these ripples that go out. And then Gabriel, you're talking about how millions of families on the planet were living this way. So when you said that, I thought, well, just think of one family doing this, okay? Everybody just think of one, and how that would radically impact people, family lineage, animals, creatures, plant life, boom, everything. Now imagine millions.
Right.
So one family, boom, they do that. They have this rite, this ceremony, beyond ceremony. They're fortifying their love. They're healing their lineage forever. It's this incredible gift to the family line, to the earth. But if there's millions, well, that takes it to a whole other level. You're literally fortifying a planet. Now you're going galactic. Like you're now working with, you're fortifying the light and the perpetual love energy of a planet. And that's why Anastasia alludes to us being multiplanetary co-creators. Hey, we can do this for a planet. we can do this and be
Yep.
this with a planet, and then we can do this and be this with others. It's unfathomable power and inspiration and creativity.
My God, like, you know, that really makes me think of a lot as you're saying that, because it's like, as you're saying, everyone is participating, right? All of the members of the settlement and everyone is coming, where the bride's settlement and the groom's settlement, they're all coming. All their family members, by the way, live nearby because they aren't separated all geographically. Grandma's coming, great grandma's coming, auntie's coming, uncle's coming, cousins, everyone's coming. Everyone is there, right? Your whole family's there, and your whole family, they get along.
Yeah.
They all get along. No, and not only does your family get along with each other, but your family gets along with your spouse's family. They all love each other too. So, first of all, let's just start there. But then it's like your best friends are there. All your best friends, right? Everyone that you love is not that far from you. So you're going around, you're visiting all these people. They're praising them. They are receiving you as like a deity incarnate come to them, and they take your praise as the praise of God himself bestowed on them as a gift, right? And then they decide they're going to give you gifts of things that you praise. So it's all very practical. You like something, you admire something, maybe you'd want it for yourself. Makes sense. It's a useful gift, right? And you have all these people near you, and they're all participating. And then it's like, think about the lives of all those people. They all went through the wedding rite too. How many of those wedding rites did each of those people go to in their lifetime? Imagine how beautiful their life was. Yeah. Like, think of the average person. I mean, all these people getting married, 20, 30, 40 of these for each person in a life. How many times did they witness this? Like, as you were saying, Ariane, like this perpetual thing. How happy was their civilization? It almost makes me want to cry. I'm not going to lie.
I totally want to cry.
I'm not going to lie. It's really beautiful because it's like they were witness to this, not just once in their own life, but other people's lives over and over and over throughout a lifetime. Like they're just watching this light and joy and love spread and spread and spread and grow and multiply. And continually become more perfect.
Yeah.
Each domain is better than the last one. Right? Each time they see something, they go back to their spouse and they love them more. I can't even, it makes me think it's so sad the life we live today compared to this. It really makes me want to cry. I'm not going to lie.
Cry. I feel a little depressed. But I'm also really inspired. I'm like, oh, dang.
It's inspiring. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's like, this is, we're in pain. There's a lot of pain with these rites and passages and traditions we have here. And it leaves us open to so much doubt and hypocrisy and insecurity. And there's all kinds of stuff we let it. It's like opening the door. Here we're hearing that these people foolproofed it. They sealed every single potential of
my God,
anything even remotely betraying and obstructing that purity. And there's another thought I had here. Okay, so you mentioned, Gabriel, that how many wedding rites did these local settlement men and women experience? Probably loads and loads, and constant fortification and proclamation and participation, witnessing of love, 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 purity of love. This is only one of the rites. Vedruss people, they had rites like this, where let's celebrate the mothers. Let's celebrate the boy turning 15 years old and being a man. Let's celebrate the purity of the water singing to us. But they probably have unreal rites and traditions that all throughout the year, that would just blow our mind. They've literally, okay, you know what? I'm taking a lot from our conversation, but one of them is that moving forward in the new earth with these new systems and this new way of being and living, it is of utmost importance, Gabriel and everybody listening, that we do our best to recreate that foolproofing, that solid. Instead of talking about protection, I'm going to change it. It's so pure, it's so elevated, it's so strong and fortified that nothing dark can touch it and access it.
Right.
It's just, it's not even thinking
It doesn't have the
it's not
potential.
even thinking about protecting itself. It's like, no, I'm pure, I'm devoted. I put all my love and attention into this. And in that it
Right.
becomes industrial, like
There's no space in there for anything to penetrate,
nothing.
right? Anything dark. It's so inherently pure of its own that it, right? And to what you're saying, you know, it's funny that you were talking about all the other celebrations and rites that they had. Anastasia says this at the end of the wedding rite, you know, sub chapter here in book 6. Right at the end of it, she says, the birth of a son or daughter to a Vedic age family was also the occasion for a grand celebration and a life significant rite. Another rite, you know, and another celebration. And there were many other celebrations back in those days. And there was absolutely no marital infidelity. Millions of happy families made the earth a delightsome place. It is the ranks of historians today and their efforts to please the powers that be who say that pristine man was once stupid, that this man killed animals, ate their meat in a frenzy, and dressed himself in their skins. A monstrous lie is necessary to people trying to cover up their monstrous deeds. Holy, but it's like, you know, this is just one of the rites and how, and you know, these constant festivities. And it's like, you start to like really get a little glimpse of at what actual joy is like. Their life was just continuous cycles of joy and celebrations and growing love from the day that they were born to the day that they died. And it's like, and they didn't die, they were reincarnated on their domains and they did all this consciously, right? And so, you know, there's even a part in book 8.2, I think it's grandfather Anastasia saying that the people setting up family domains in this era, you know, where we live now, they didn't understand fully what they were doing. And the Vedruss people did, though. And they knew, like, what they were creating. They were creating a place that they were going to reincarnate and generations of their descendants would come and live and they themselves would come back. They knew this. They didn't fear it. I mean, what a significant act. Like, it's just so crazy to think about. I mean, immortality, that's a whole nother thing. Ariane, I'm going to try to rein myself in and get back to the step of where we're at in the wedding rite, just so we can get through this. And so so they paid respects to the bridegroom's, you know, home village. They praise everything. Okay, so now the wedding day happens, right? They've gone around to the villages. They've met all their family and friends. They've heaped praise. Family and friends know what they're going to give. Oh, by the way, easy way to pick a gift. You don't have to rack your brain about what you're bringing to the wedding. Easy. And it's free. It's in your backyard. Just go get the dog. Give him a puppy. It's perfect. You know, no expensive wedding gifts. No debt for the wedding either. Nobody's going into debt here. So this is fantastic. So the wedding day comes. All the guests take a position around the perimeter of the domain. In the middle, next to the shelter, the little shelter that Ariane was saying earlier, a little mound rose out of the earth, decorated with flowers, right? So all the guests are at the perimeter of the domain. And Anastasia says this is marked with dry branches. Very interesting. And then in the center, there's this little mound decorated with flowers. And the young man, you know, the groom comes out on the mound, and she says that he sets forth the design. He speaks for about 3 hours. He's outlining everything that should live and grow there. He's pointing and describing everything. He's giving a doctoral or oral doctoral thesis. He's like on the design of this domain, right? We have to understand. He's presenting this for 3 hours. What are we talking about? He just spent a year, 2 deep meditation, day and night, every day, designing this with a level of understanding of nature that we can barely even appreciate. And he gets in front of everyone he knows and loves, and the woman he loves, on this mound. They're all there, and sets this design forth in all of its precise detail for 3 straight hours. Brother, what are we talking about? Right? And the last thing I'll say here, you know, So every Anastasia says every time he says where something should be planted, someone will go over to that
Yeah.
spot and plant whatever he designates, and they already have the saplings for everything in their hands.
Yes.
So that's how the people fill the space. They start at the perimeter. He's doing everything, and slowly but surely they all come from the perimeter into these different spots. So he's doing that for 3 hours.
Well, it goes to show how important this is. If you're going to talk for 3 hours to all the people of your settlement, dude, you're that's a priority.
Yeah.
That's something really important there. And now,
And she says they listen with rapt attention the entire time.
I mean, it's unreal. And what comes next, Gabriel, is even more profound, because then they start to proclaim their acknowledgments to one another as her,
Right.
she, the embodiment of this infinite warmth and inspiration and love in him, this godly co-creator. And the words that they use, do you have the words up there?
I do. Yeah. And I want to say real quick, it's like before any, like, this is the wedding.
Yeah.
This is the wedding. We're remembering. This is the wedding. Everyone is gathered for the wedding. He just spent 3 hours on his master thesis, outlining everything in unbelievable detail. Everyone is going to the spots they're ready to plant, right? So the next step of this is everyone has the saplings. They're in the right spot. Now you would say this is the ceremony part of, like, right, we get into the parents coming in, and I do have the quotes. I can read if you want. Yeah, so the young man finishes speaking. He does his 3 hours. He comes up to his, beloved wife, well, fiance at the moment, or I forget, the words. And he says, "I've not created this space of love in isolation. Here is my marvelous inspiration standing beside me before you all." Right? And, he, interestingly, back to the process of God and love, he just set forth the design, right? It isn't stated in book 4 that love, the energy of love, necessarily dreamt the entire universe, right? It was attributed to God, right? So the young man sets forth the design, and now he says, "Here is the marvelous inspiration standing beside me before you all," right? Like, I have not created this space of love in isolation, right? Because he just spent 3 hours speaking. And now he says, "I did not do this alone. Here was my inspiration," right? I couldn't, he attributes that to her on equal footing, right? And Anastasia describes the young woman as she comes up. She says she's overflowing with the energy of love. Her cheeks glow more intensely than usual. The maiden, she says, you can't really call her a young woman. He says you call her like a maiden, or she's a goddess. The maiden's clear eyes and body vibrant with health reach out to envelop the people and the whole space around them with a radiant warmth. For a moment, the whole scene falls silent still. The young goddess shines before the people in all her beauty. And Ariane, if you want, I can continue with, like, the whole little dialogue thing. Oh yeah, my God. Here we go, guys. So the mother asks the daughter. Now they're standing on the mound. A young man is there. Mother and father of them are all there. She asks her daughter, "Tell me, do you see the future of the land you've chosen?" And I'm leaving out a few of the words here just for brevity, but tell me, do you see the future of the land you've chosen? Do you like everything about the future you've been shown? Her daughter responds, "Yes, Mama. Here will be a splendid paradise garden, a living home." Right? And this is kind of, again, back in book 4, as God is creating everything, love is kind of anticipating the future of what is going to occur there. And love starts, like, warning God of all these things that might happen. Love is seeing the future of what God is creating and decides to give its energy to God. Right? And so here it's kind of a very similar thing where the mother asks this embodiment of love, the daughter, like, do you like everything about the future you've been shown? Right? Do you see the future of the land you've chosen? And so the mother continues, "Who will be crowned to reign over all this marvelous space around? Of all the people living on the earth, upon whom could you bestow the crown?" The daughter responds, "He is worthy to wear the crown whose thought is able to create a future that will be splendid all around." And now it just almost, like, wants to bring you to tears, man. It's just so beautiful. the wife here, she has hand woven this garland of flowers and everything and herbs. It's beautiful. And she places it on the groom's head, right? He's on his knees. She picks this thing up and places it on his head, affectionately touches his hair. And this is back to what we were saying earlier, that no one is coming between them, right? Lyubomila, or the young bride places this crown on her, husband's head herself, right? After confirming that the future that she sees for everything here is beautiful and splendid. And she says that this person, his thought is able to create, a splendid future for everyone around. And I mean, it's just, I don't even know where to begin. It just like moves you to your core. It just really moves you. I'm like picturing all this in my head as it's happening, as they're describing it. And it's like, can you imagine what that feels like, or like what that's like, Wow. I can continue, but Ariane, I want to give you some space here because I'm like blazing through. Okay, should I go, or did you want to?
No.
Okay, keep going. All right, man. So what happens? The garland is placed on the groom's head now, and again, book 8.2, Anastasia is saying, Lyubomila herself places the crown on Radomir's head in front of the whole gathering. This is an act that God's children are indeed entitled to fulfill. It's a psychological factor that is not as simple as it may seem at first glance, right? Nobody stands between the Vedruss couple and God, and their marriage can be blessed by only God himself. So now the crown is on the husband's head, and his father begins speaking to him. And he now asks him, he stands up, he has the crown on his head. He says, who are you? Right? Look at what a challenging question. I mean, he asks him, who are you whose thought is capable of creating a space of love? Oh my God, like what a challenging question. Whereupon the young man replies, I'm your son, and I am the son of the Creator. Oh my God. And his father responds, a crown has been placed upon your head, a sign of a great mission to come. You who are wearing the crown, what will you do as you reign over your domain? Right? He's testing his son right here. Who are you whose thought is capable of creating a space of love? He's saying, are you worthy? Right? How can you say that you are worthy in my face, in the face of God? Right? I am your son, and I am a son of the Creator. And so now, what will you do as you reign over your domain? Son responds, I shall create a future that all around will remain most splendid. And now his father asks him, where will you gain the strength and inspiration, my son, and crowned son of the Creator? And the son replies, in love, my God. And the last part of their dialogue here, the father asks him again, the energy of love is capable of wandering through the whole universe. How will you manage to see the reflection of universal love on the earth? The son replies, there's one girl, father, and for me, she is the reflection of universal love on the earth. And now, he kind of like embraces Lyubomila and all of this, the wife. But it's like every question that the parents ask to their children is loaded with meaning and purpose. And they're asking them, are you going to fulfill your designated like divine purpose? Do you understand what you're doing here? Are you capable? They're like testing them. Yeah. And the children are responding like, I am worthy. I get it. I can do this. I will fulfill my purpose. Right? And it's just such an intense, short, but like so intense.
Yeah, and they're being witnessed by all of these people around the perimeter who they love, or neighbors with them,
right?
Or collaborating in settlement with them. But again, it's not just witnessing. All of them are participating. All of them are co-creating. Again, this is another example of like foolproofing, of making it more and more and more fortified anchor. Every sentence here, fortifying love and perpetuity even deeper into the earth, with the earth. Every single statement. Imagine in today's marriage rites where your dad or your mom, like I can't even.
It's like, what are we doing?
Because of the circumstance, it would seem very peculiar and out of the ordinary, and what's going on, and maybe even some people would be, disturbed by it. Whatever, it is a completely different container. This is a completely different environment and paradigm and intention. I might say, hey, we're so far away. we're learning, these books are a great reminder of this. The anti-rational way, it's not natural. It actually is exhausting. It's actually takes a lot of effort. But here,
Yep.
look, the dad is speaking effortlessly to the son. He's just speaking these words that are so natural. You can hear how perfectly suiting these words are in this paradigm and environment and right. It's perfectly suited. It's so beautiful. And another solid fortification with all of these participants and witnesses in the perimeter, bare feet on the earth, these including the earth. It's only more and more inspiring, and this is why Anastasia said this civilization was untouchable. Nobody could take them down. No warlords or black monks. There was a time that happened, but we'll get into that in another podcast. But for apparently for millennia, they were untouchable. And now we have a good idea why. The marriage rite is showing us giving us a very good idea as to why they were untouchable. Because how the heck does shadow even come close to that? It's not possible. So yeah, we have the father who's having his son affirm his identity, his commitment, his love in front of everybody. And then the mother does that too with her daughter. The mother does that with her as well, this goddess.
All right, everybody. So we just came back from a little break, and we're realizing that we're going on quite the adventure here. We needed some water and stuff like that, so we can continue here. And we are at the next step of the wedding rite. So now, Radomir. Well, in this case, is it Radomir? In this case, I don't know if in book 6 if she's saying this is specifically Radomir and Lyubomila. I think it's just a normal couple. But so he has declared that he will get his strength and inspiration in love. And so now the next step is they begin planting everything, right? Everyone is standing in the spots that he spent 3 hours outlining and specifying. Everyone is there. They're ready. They have made these declarations of love in front of their parents, to each other, and in front of everyone witnessing. And so the husband ends, there is one girl, Father, and for me she is the reflection of universal love on the earth. So what happens next is, with these words, the young man comes down to where the girl is standing, takes her by the hand, and leads her back up to the mound. Holding hands, they watch as the two families merge into a single group, sharing hugs and jokes and laughter from the youngest child to the eldest present. Everything becomes quiet once more when the young man holds up his hand and proclaims, "My thanks to all who heard me in this place. My soul has spoken of the creation of a new space. My thanks to all who have held the energy of love in such high esteem. May what has been conceived by the soul's dream now sprout from the earth." And Anastasia says, "Throw the seeds they have brought with them into the ground." So these are the circle dances where everyone is singing. These are, the traditional Russian circle dances, horovod. And they do this now actually on the settlements in Russia. And I've actually participated in some horovod with bards and everything. And it's very joyful. It's extremely joyful. So picture this. Everyone is now, right? The young man comes up. He says, "Thank you to everyone." He says, "My soul has spoken of the creation of a new space." When have we ever said words like that, first of all? These are the consciousness that this man is operating from is so exalted. He's in an exalted state of consciousness, right? And he says, "My thanks to all who have held the energy of love in such high esteem." He is in this deity state of consciousness. He's extremely exalted. Where he's speaking from. Now, all of his friends and his wife's friends and family have started planting everything, and they're singing and dancing and laughing and all together on a 2.5 acre space, right? And Anastasia said even back then it could be 1 hectare or more, slightly, more. But they're on this large space, singing and dancing joyfully. Horovod is in a circle usually, so they're holding hands and dancing and singing. Little kids, elders, the couple is in the center of all this. You can't even, how joyful and festive it must have been, right? This atmosphere must have just been electric, right? It must have been electric to be there and so happy. And Anastasia comes back. Within the space of a few minutes, a marvelous garden has been planted. The space which has been created through a dream. Oh my God. Oh man. And now the people retreat once more beyond the plot's perimeter. Only the two families remain surrounding the mound where he and she, the young lovers, are still standing. So they're still on the mound. Drops of rain from the skies are falling onto the ground. The very warm rain is unusual and lasts but a short time. These are tears of joy and tenderness falling from the Creator's eyes to water the marvelous space co-created by his children. What could be dearer for a parent than the marvelous creations of his children? Right? There's steps after this. We can continue. There's actually still some steps, but the planting is done, right? The party is joyful. Anastasia is, and she's saying this is a typical Vedruss wedding rite. And she's saying God is shedding tears of joy at each one, right? Each one, a short rain, he manifests himself. He was present too, right? The whole time, watching. Imagine, she says, what could be dearer for a parent than the marvelous creations of his children? God's watching this with rapt attention, right? The whole thing is so exalted.
Oh, hold on. If you can hear me, you totally froze. Oh, you're back.
We reconnected?
Yes.
You're back.
Yeah.
All right.
There was a total freezer, so I didn't get you for
Yep.
a few seconds there, but yeah, we're talking about this exalted state that this man and woman are in. You're talking about a whole other degree of joy and festivity and ritual, tradition. You're talking about a degree of unity that we're not seeing. We don't see that in our modern era and our modern traditions and systems. And I'm going to see too, on a practical level, how brilliant this is. Because if they were to do, Radomir, Lyubomila, were to do all that planting and work, orchestrating on their own, that would have taken, can you imagine, everyone, how much time if they were to do that alone? And now, because of the hands plenty, there's so many people there that are putting in the seedlings themselves, that are creating the hand-woven fence to bring the puppy and the baby bear and the baby goat, to put them inside for their home. And this is such a huge amount of effort that would take them alone probably years, quite honestly, to...
Yeah, it's a lot of time.
A lot of time. And boom, they have it done by the hands of the people they love. It's people they love that put that sapling in. It's people they love that planted that flower garden. It's not just their memory and love that they're infusing in that kin's domain. It's everyone that's an extension of them too, with their family and friends and neighbors. You're talking about Gabriel, how these Vedruss people had freed thought. Their thought was free and totally free to perpetually be creators, inspired creators. This is another example of how they did that. Hey, and even build their house. This is in a later chapter, the next chapter actually, if we get into it on this episode, maybe not. Yep. But if you continue reading, they don't even build their house. They don't even, they're participating fully in everything. And they have the hands of a whole settlement to help them create it. It's constant demonstration of freed, inspired thought that can be free to just co-create an inspiration and joy. And that's what Anastasia says. She said, that's exactly what God wants from us. That what happened was a joint creation, and joy was shared by all from its contemplation. Well, that is precisely what God wants of men. That's 8.2, 1.5.
Oh, man. Oh, my God. Oh my God. And yeah, I'm going to try to what you're saying there, maybe get through the rest of these steps. I'm feeling hopeful that we might be able to get. So are you okay? I can keep reading a little bit of this. And guys, we're going to read and discuss, but it's just, I want to get through the whole wedding rite. So essentially what is happening now, and once again, God has cried his tears of joy. Everyone has retreated beyond the plot's perimeter. The young couple is still standing on the mound in the center. the young man with the crown holds up his hand. He says, "Let all the creatures given to man by the Creator live together with us in friendship." So they come down from the mound, they head over to the shelter where they stayed while working out the design. Some people from the circle standing around, they come up with animals, right? An old dog and a puppy, right? And the visitor bows and presents the bride with the puppy. The old dog goes and lies down at the young man's feet. This dog has been trained to help man teach all the other animals, right? So an old dog and a puppy. The young man orders the dog to sit by the entrance to the shelter. The girl lets the puppy inside. Other people approach the shelter one by one, carrying in their arms a kitten or a lamb, or bringing a colt or a bear cub on a lead. And they quickly fashion tree branches into a wicker fence, and this is Anastasia talking, to attach animal pens to the shelter. And so now Anastasia is saying, and soon the dwelling, which was just a short time ago was used by people as sleeping quarters, is now filled with young animals. And there is tremendous significance in this. For in mixing with each other this way, these animals will forever live together in friendship, caring for and helping each other. No mysticism in this. It is the law of the Creator of nature. After all, you can find examples of this even today. If a puppy and a kitten grow up together, they will remain friends as adults. Right? One of the other characteristics of the Vedic period was that people were fully aware of the purpose of the various creatures, and all animals served man, right? And so in this instance, the bride and groom are presented by the residents of the two villages with the best they have, right? So now they have planted the garden, as you're saying, Ariane. They got help from dozens of people, I don't know how many dozen, but certainly dozens, to plant this whole garden exactly as they laid it out precisely. And Anastasia doesn't say they were seeds. She says they all had saplings. Yeah. So they didn't even start things from seed. They had saplings planted immediately across a whole hectare or more. Now all of their animals, they have a full thing full of animals, young baby animals and an older dog to help train the other ones. They all mix together and become friends. Every step of this is so ridiculously practical, right? And these animals are going to help serve them later on and all these things, and protect their children and all this, and just live in joy with them, right? And the animals are going to have a blessed life too. And it's just a beautiful thing. And so, Ariane, do you mind if I continue to the next step here? Or do we want to stop and reflect a little bit on this? The next step is when they build the house.
Just super quick, are you reading this edition or are you reading a different one?
I'm in book 6.
Okay, because you're reading some things and I'm like, not seeing that.
What is that? Right. So there's actually, guys, and for everyone listening, there's actually 2 Wedding Rite chapters. One of them is in book 6 and the other is book 8.2, where it's like, it's Radomir and Lyubomila's wedding that they're discussing. So I'm reading from book 6, but there's probably the same thing, and she kind of like goes through their story as well in book 8.2. But so I guess I'll just continue a little bit here. So the next step, I mean, man, I don't even know. Let's just stop and digest that for a minute. I don't even want to rush through this. So we have the animals, right?
Yeah. And because I know people have inquired about this subject. Well, how in the taiga do these animals collaborate with each other, co-create with each other, be around one another, and not hunt each other, which is what we see in our forests and our TV screens. These animals that have to protect themselves from one another, that are predators, and, blah, blah, blah. We're getting another glimpse here of what's happening. We're seeing that these animals come together when they're babies. Baby puppy, baby bear, baby colt, and having them being raised together, they're going to take care of each other. And we're not going to see that issue, or not that issue, but that circumstance, that we're seeing in our reality. So I think that's a really important piece. Animals don't have to be defending or fighting or, at odds with each other. They could be in harmony, like what we're seeing here with the Vedruss land.
That's a really interesting point, right? Like this whole diversity of animals, they grow up, spend their life together, and they're all friends. And Anastasia says it's completely practical, right? We can see it today. And now these animals are going to help the family and serve them in all these multitude of ways. And it's just so practical, right? And so The next thing is, this is such an interesting little step here, but after they accept the gifts, the young couple once more come back onto the mound, and Anastasia is talking here. She says, "Our hearty thanks to everyone. The bridegroom expresses their gratitude to those gathered. Thank you all for co-creating this space. My descendants will care for it over the centuries to come." My God, right? And then the next thing, our thanks to the mothers who bore the Creator, says the bride. The mothers, plural, who bore the Creator, says the bride. What a way of talking. What an exalted way of talking. And turning to the young man, she adds, guys, this is incredible. For the joy of the Creator of the sun, the moon, the sprinkle of stars in the sky, and our most beautiful earth, we shall co-create everything you are able to think of. This is what she says to her bride, to her husband, right? And he returns, he responds to her, "Together with you, my splendid goddess, and with people," the young man answers and adds, "you alone are capable of inspiring my dreams." Right? That's how they kind of conclude everything. And so once again, the young people come down from the mound. They're surrounded by their respective families, all congratulating them. And the people dance a haravot around the plot, accompanied by a joyful song. I mean, think about it. Like, my God, thank you for co-creating this space. So he's acknowledging that they all took part in this. He's thanking them. My descendants will care for it over the centuries. He's talking about centuries of time. I mean, what is this? And then, our thanks to the mothers who bore the Creator, says the bride. To the mothers, plural, generations of mothers, right? And probably several of them were there. These people lived very long. Mother is there, grandmother is there, great grandmother is there. You might have great grandmother and all that. How many these people lived really long, and they're there. And so there's probably several mothers to thank. I mean, right there. It's just incredible. And the bride turns to the husband, "We shall co-create everything you're able to think of." Right? And she's like, I will inspire and give myself to your creations, right? And everything you're able to think of, we will co-create. Right? And then he turns to her again, "You alone are capable of inspiring my dreams." Right? And it's this beautiful, perfect unity. It's like what we were talking about in the first episode. It's like love has decided to give itself to these creations and inspire them. And God in turn says, I can't do it without you. I can't have these dreams without your inspiration. They are inseparable and equal. Right? And then these people knew that with every fiber of their being. They lived it perfectly. And it's just, they, as Anastasia refers to them as God people so many times throughout the books. And it's we see why. They weren't just planting stuff in the ground. These people were exalted beings, right? And they really were. I don't know how you have the consciousness to speak like they did,
No, and to have it fully recognized, appreciated, and understood by every single other man, woman, child there.
Everyone is there.
This is our norm. This is how we live. This is the language we speak. This is our reality. This is our day-to-day. Talk about starting on a good foot as a young couple. Look at that. And it gets even more spectacular, and probably other episodes we'll talk about, the house, or unless you want to talk about it now, but it gets even more spectacular where their thought is freed to be infinitely co-creating in this inspired way, perfecting the perfection of the land, perfecting their love with each other and their child. And exalted, you speak about them being so exalted. This is not a way you communicate, unless you have this quite refined and high degree of awareness, consciousness, love, relationship with Creator, relationship with the land. And I love how it combines so much joy, so much practicality. This is not super airy-fairy, esoteric things. This is deeply rooted in practicality and joy.
Right. I mean, like, as we're going through this, I keep trying to picture myself as
Yeah.
being there. And it's like, the garden is planted, you're with your, like, wife or husband, you're standing on the mound, you just went through this whole incredible thing. Everyone is singing, dancing, children, elderly people. I mean, what could that feel like? You're in the center of your domain, the sun is shining, warm rain upon you, your parents are there, everyone you love is there. Like, how overflowing, like, have we ever been through something like that? Like, something that overwhelmingly joyful? It's just hard to imagine how happy their existence must have been. You know, I feel like I've said that a couple times, but it's like I'm really getting the experience here. I'm really trying to, like, put myself in this, and it's how perfect these people were.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And, coming up, it's the home and then this like quite holy conception, whether we talk about this day or not, whatever, like we will.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, let's just rewind here. Those things are about to happen. And now they don't just have such a holy, pure, and exalted connection, Lyubomila Radomir. They don't just have that. Now they have this huge well of settlement, love, joy, support, exhilaration, love. Now they're pulling on that too to create their actual house and to conceive their child. It's so much love,
Yeah.
and it's so much joy, and it's so much support and
Yeah.
freedom and inspiration. No wonder why these people were unstoppable. And no wonder why these children were God children. They were so evolved and so perfected and so free to just be their brilliant divine selves. No wonder.
I think we should really get to the house building part and then go from there, right? So they have this dialogue. We shall co-create everything you're able to think of, and the husband responds, "You alone are capable of inspiring my dreams," right? And so what happens after this, right? Everyone is singing, dancing haravod around the plot, accompanied by joyful song. The young people each go back to their own home. For 2 nights and a day, they will not see each other. Upon reaching home, having spent so much effort creating, the young creator falls into a deep sleep, right? This man he just had a day. You know what I'm saying? This is a culmination of several, a year or two of his life, a couple months, all this 3-hour presentation. He comes back. His beautiful bride does the same in her own bed. Those who remain at the spot where the co-creation took place in love will go on singing songs in a haravod. Older couples will go off by themselves with resurrected memories of how it all happened to them on a similar day of their own. How beautiful, man, how beautiful. And here's the incredible part. And over the course of the following night and day, the best craftsmen from both villages will build the couple a little house to the accompaniment of songs and the haravod. They will fit the rows of timbers tight together, the moss and grass between them making a sweet-smelling bouquet. And by the end of that day, the women of the villages will place the best fruits of their harvest in the new home. The 2 mothers will cover the bed with a linen counterpane. And by the second night, every last one of the visitors will be gone in the domain, right? And so, and in book 8.2, Anastasia elaborates a little more. She says that these pieces of the house are like prefabricated, and the craftsmen carry them over, right? And so they build the house in 2 days. In 2 days, these unbelievably skilled woodworkers, right? They do woodworking for joy, not because they have to. They're extreme master craftsmen, right? They come and they assemble this house prefabricated from extremely high quality wood, grown probably from the domains of where people grew up. So this like wood with this energy of love in it. They come, assemble the house while everyone is singing and dancing at the same time. They're singing and joyfully dancing while the house is being built. The mothers come in and fill it with all these, this harvest of fruits and linens, and they decorate it and all this stuff. And in 2 days, that's what happens. And this is what the couple is going to come back to. This is what they're going to come back to. They have the whole garden planted. All the animals are there in the pen, and a house got built for them in 2 days for free. It's like we look at these things like how bad are most people struggling with affording even just a regular house today? It's insane. But like you got a master level house built for you in 2 days. assembled all this stuff, and this is what they're going to come back to in just a couple days, right?
So now we're being given a really great, another phenomenal example of what's possible when community and settlement organizes together. And what I'm hearing is nobody is really dreading being there. Nobody's like, oh, I have to do this, like I have to build that log home. No, from the sounds of it, everybody wants to be there very much, and is very much an participator and co-creator, and it's a huge honor. It's something that everybody is anticipating in the settlement. There's, this isn't, oh, I'm obliged because it's a wedding rite, so I got to go and, build that log house. No. This is like the next level example of how we can live as community. It's pretty exciting. I would love to participate in a rite like this. I just feel like the exhilaration just reading these words and having this conversation with you, because I think people know that it's not just about the couple. Everybody is getting this enormous like wave and boost of inspiration, and everybody's fortifying their relationship with land, with their family, with creator, with love, even more by participating in this. An honor to be there. It's an honor. These people don't see themselves as separate. They have a refined unity consciousness here. It's really exciting. I feel really motivated to bring these back, to bring this way of living with community back.
Yeah, right. And it's like, what a profound, connection with the community, right? As you're saying, it's like, imagine it's, these craftsmen, some of them might be like your cousins, or like your uncle or something. And someone that you love tremendously might have been involved in the building of your house, and they were there for the planting of your garden and all this. And I mean, right, the whole community comes together for everything. Who knows how many people were in attendance doing the planting and all that. And who knows how many of these craftsmen there were. It was, dozens of people came to the wedding, right? It's like, who knows? It could have been 100, it could have been 200. Who knows? Certainly it must have been, think about all the plants on a domain. It could have been like a couple hundred people there, with all the extended family, like easily. Even a modern wedding could have a couple hundred people with your friends and your family and everything. It's not far-fetched to think. So you got this giant group of all these people you love dearly, and now you got this beautiful space of love, and the house is there, and it's just, I mean, what a far cry from where we are now. But it's like, I'm so grateful for Anastasia and her grandfathers, sharing this, so that way we can reorient ourselves and understand how we should live,
Oh yeah, I'm really humbled. I mean, last episode I was really humbled, to go through that information. But this one, it's even a whole other degree of just feeling like I want to kneel down and really retrain how I think about community, the land, God, love, wedding rites, everything. And that's a willingness to say, hey, you know what? I'm willing to see this differently. I'm willing to feel through maybe some uncomfortable feelings. I mean, of course it makes me a little uncomfortable too, because it shows me how far I have been personally, and my community has been. And at the same time, we have been taking strides, and a lot of us are ready. We're craving this, we're craving community. We're craving a deeper, pure love. We're craving that connection with the land. So this is a beautiful invitation to, first of all, to read the chapter yourselves, everybody. If you haven't gotten to this book, definitely give it a go. Check it out, because this is it. And book 6, book 6. I'm going to read those chapters as well. We can recreate this. These are our ancestors. It's alive in us. We can bring it back to life. It's so exciting.
We're their descendants. We descended from these people.
That memory's there.
And that's what Anastasia is saying. It's like the Vedruss civilization is coming back alive in us. We were these people. I honestly, I'm not going to lie. Like, I was reading Ariane, like, in preparation for this, kind of reviewing everything. And there were parts of the wedding rite where I felt that I was saying the words of, like, the people there, you know? And I felt like I had to really stop for a minute. I was like, dude, this is such a strong feeling, you know? And I had to really stop, and I was like, wow, you know, and almost like some memory of those feelings, like very distant, you know, coming up. And like, you know, let's not forget, it's like the people who are, you know, Anastasia laid it out very clearly. It's like the Vedruss civilization waking back up in us right now. You're muted, by the way, Ariane. You're muted. But like, this civilization is us, right? And it's just, imagine, you know, like, we were these people. We were, and we are here, and we can do it again, you know?
Yeah, and this is what the books do, everyone. I've read the book, I've read the 10 books 3 times now, and each time I'm going through this cellular memory awakening, which is what Gabriel is talking about. Hey, I have this memory in me, I can't explain it, I don't understand it, but something is stirring in me that feels very old, ancient, and resonates with this, and can kind of remember somehow, some way. Well, we know how cell memory works. We know that there's this timeless field that we're all part of. We know the memory of ancestry still exists through us. And we know from the books, I forget which one, but there's one Anastasia proclaims that Vedruss are waking up around the world now. And when they do, they will be unstoppable.
Book 6.
Be unstoppable, like
Yep.
Nothing can wake up these people. And when I was reading this chapter, I kept on seeing, I can't explain it, but I kept on seeing this huge open space with pines everywhere. It was this very dense pine forest with these people that they looked like these they stood like elves, and they held themselves like these elven, just very poised and so peaceful. Just like flashes of these things. Why am I thinking of that? Where is that coming from? What does that mean?
Where is that coming from? Yeah.
This feels like a lifetime where love was so much more available, present, accessible. It's in us right now. I mean, how empowering is that? You know what this means? This means we're gonna turn things around quick, fast.
Amen.
Like, it's gonna be like that.
That's
it.
what
that means.
You know, as you're saying that, I was reading, I forget what book. It might have been book 4, 8.2, or 6. It was one of these, maybe book 3. I entirely forget the book, but Vladimir was talking with grandfather, and he's like, look at, in 2 years, there hasn't been, look at what's happened in 2 years. Vladimir was saying, after he published the books, right? Initially published the books. He's like, look what's happened in 2 years, right? What's going on, right? And grandfather corrected it. He said, look what happened in only 2 years. He's like, it took 300 years for Christianity to be noticeably felt in the world. And he's like, look how fast Anastasia has done things in 2 years. Right? And it's like, we really are in the position of really turning these things around. And as close as we can get to these things in one lifetime, right, is like, you could really do this conceivably in a single life, right? Like, we could do the wedding rite as it is now. It would, require a lot of stuff, but you very well could. The possibility exists. Like, someone can, and probably multiple people can. Maybe not all of us, but like, I think for those of us who aren't able to do it in the way that she describes here, I think what really matters is kind of like your heart and your intention and your purity, and getting as close to these things as we can. Maybe we don't have a giant group of people around us, right? Our family members and friends and all these people. Maybe they're not there, but maybe a couple people are, right? And you know what? Maybe that's the best we can say, thank you for, right? And it's beautiful because you place the crown on your beloved's head anyway, right? And God is there and He's watching, and you're creating this beautiful space of love, and you are materializing it, and all these things are happening, right? And so I would say, don't let perfect, be the enemy of the good, right? It's like, progress is progress. And even a person having the idea to do this, and even if it's just a couple people or whoever, no one else, maybe no one is there, but the fact that you did it is so monumental compared to how people live,
I love that.
Today.
Look how empowering that is, what you just said there. That's what Anastasia did with Vladimir. She didn't have people coming with colts and with, baby goats and, saplings. It was her and Vladimir. And Vladimir was even asleep. It was them too. Grandpa and
Yeah.
grandpa weren't even there. They weren't, sorry, grandpa and great grandpa weren't even there. It was her and her pure intent, and it made the earth shudder. It made the, crater and love shudder with joy, and the ripples were sent, and it was done. I really love what you say, Gabriel. It's a process, because it's like a grieving that we go through of like, whoa, we can be that. We're here. We're in a mess. Yeah, feel those feelings, everyone. That's real. And like what Gabriel's saying, it's these steps. Of course, we might not be able to recreate that exactly the way the book is describing, but man, can we take inspired action now, just like Anastasia did it. She did it in her own creative way, totally worked. We can have fun with this, and
Yep.
before we know it, we might even have our own modern twist on this. Take the Vedruss way and have it just as pure, intended as theirs,
Right.
but bring in our own little, style. It's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The essence of things remains unchanged, it's like, right. And, and there's so much, I feel like that's a really, really good
Yeah.
ending point. Like we got through to the building of the house, and there's so much that comes after. There is the experiences of the, the husband and wife as they're at home and what they're going through. And Anastasia talks about, their interactions with their family while they're at home, and how they come back to the space after, right? And she goes on this incredible dialogue that I would love to start probably the next episode with. She goes on this monologue about, how the domains of the Vedic culture were, so perfect, and she issues this kind of challenge to modern science. And I'll just read a little bit and we can come back to it. She says, domains of the Vedic culture. Oh my God, dude, this is such a powerful speech. She says, domains that were to be known in subsequent occult books as paradise, as people lost their vast storehouse of knowledge and imagined that this paradise could be perceived only over the distant horizon beyond the clouds, and all to enhance the significance of so-called modern science and covering up the poverty of their own thought. Oh my God, brother. And she just keeps going, and I think that would be, there's so much to get into about, the experiences after, and Anastasia's reflections on everything. And then we can also, Ariane, talk about Radomir and Lyubomila's story, their story with their wedding and like how that happened. And there's a bunch of extra things that happened. So I think we got a lot for the next, episode or two. But thank you, everybody for coming with us on this journey today, man. This has been incredible for me.
Oh, I'm in a totally different space.
Yeah,
I'm in
me
a totally
too.
different space. I really need to digest and sit with that again. But I feel this, I have to say, I feel like I feel a sweetness in me. I feel this like really sweet and very peaceful presence that I don't think I've really felt before. And my heart really longs to have these experiences, not just with my beloved, but also with land, with people, with my neighbors. This is beautiful. So thank you, Grandpa, for encouraging us to explore this. It's been a joy. We're gonna continue to explore in other episodes. And thank you, Gabriel, for having that thought. Thank you. Yeah, explore this.
I mean, my pleasure. I mean, you and I are co-creating this, and I'm really happy with how it's coming out. So our dear friends and who have listened with us to this point, if you have anything you want to share, please leave it in the comments. We are excited to hear people's reflections on all of this. And again, we're all going on this as a collective kind of thought journey together, and rediscovering these things and going deeper. And yeah, as grandfather said, I think a perfect way to close this out would be to say what he said again: let the best learned men study the Vedruss Wedding Rite letter by letter. They won't, and you'd better believe me, Vladimir, they won't find a single occult or superstitious act. It is an act which is both rational and exactly suited to love's creation. Compared to it, you will see how absurd are today's wedding celebrations, traditions smacking of occultism and superstition. But you don't have the slightest idea of what tremendous hidden wisdom lies in the ancient rites. They are the creation of cosmic world. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll be back to explore the creation of cosmic worlds, and there's some real significance in that, and we're gonna dive in. So
Thank you.
thank you, everybody. Hey, and if you want to join everything that we're doing, Anastasia Dow Foundation, doing tons of events all the time, you can join Ariane's imagery calls, which are profound and moving experiences, which I highly recommend that you join. You can join me on the international community calls. We have all kinds of meetups and things going on. Anastasia Dow Foundation. If you want to support our work, help us reach more people, you can donate. We're a tax-exempt nonprofit. You can write off everything on your taxes, support us, and it helps a lot. Everything helps. So thank you, everybody. We will see you next time.
Bye.